Ladies? Anyone else? Vidura Uvacha. Vidur said, Tasya, of him, Anga, Sila Nide, reservoir of good characteristics, Sadhu, saintly persons, Brahmanasya, lover of Brahminical culture, Mahatmanaha, great soul, Rajnya, of the king, Katam, how, Abut, it was, Dusta, bad, Praja, son, Yat, by which, Vimana, being indifferent, Yayo, he left. So this is about King Anga. Vidura inquired from the sage Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, King Anga was very gentle. He had a high character and was a saintly personality and lover of Brahminical culture. How is it that such a great soul got a bad son like Veda, because of whom he became indifferent to his kingdom and left it? Srila Prabhupada's purport. In family life, a man is supposed to live happily with father, mother, wife, and children. But sometimes, under certain conditions, a father, mother, child, or wife becomes an enemy. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that a father is an enemy when he is too much in debt. A mother is an enemy if she marries for the second time. A wife is an enemy when she is very beautiful. Hare Krishna. Think about that one. Oh no, I'm too beautiful. Ah. Ladies want to be beautiful, but now here's a problem. So, what to do? Okay, and the son is an enemy when he's a foolish rascal. We know a lot of those. Okay. In this way, when a family member becomes an enemy, it's very difficult to live in family life or remain a householder. Generally, such situations occur in the material world. Therefore, according to Vedic culture, one has to take leave of his family members just after his 50th year so that the balance of his life may be completely devoted in search of Krishna consciousness. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gina Jana Salakaya Chaksa Unrilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sri Sri Radha Damodar Ji Ki Jai Sri Sri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Marani Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this question leads to the answers which will come up in a few verses. in the future, how did he get such a son that was not only a rascal, but he was like a terror, would harass his friends and everyone. So here, but Prabhupada is explaining the duties of a householder. And Prabhupada talks about himself. When he got married, of course, he was an arranged marriage for Srila Prabhupada. And he said, I didn't like my wife. Hare Krishna. And so he said, I want to get a second wife. Because, Vedic culture allows for many women to become wives. But of course, nowadays, I don't know, but here in India, of course, in the West, it's against the law. Can't do it. But I don't know what the law in India is. You can have many wives here? Yeah? No? Can't do that. Okay. Especially with women's liberation. Can't be possible. Women won't allow it. Yeah, but so Prabhupada wanted a second wife at the time. And his father said, it is very good you don't like your wife. Hare Krishna. Doesn't sound like a happy marriage, does it? It's very good you don't like your wife because that you'll be able to become detached and leave home at the right time. So Prabhupada followed that. He didn't go for a second wife. He said, my wife was very nice, but she didn't like Krishna consciousness. She was always interested in socializing with friends and family members and drinking tea. You know, the British contribution to India, tea, the British tea company. So yeah, they introduced tea, and she became very attached to tea. But at one point, and Prabhupada always wanted to bring his wife into Krishna consciousness, but she always would. She was very respectful, good mother. He had Prabhupada had 5 children, 3 boys and two girls, and she was a good mother and good wife, but wasn't at all interested in Krishna consciousness when Prabhupada was trying to, preach or develop his program in India. And he did many things to try to encourage her, but she was always respectfully uninterested. What to do. So one time she ran out of tea biscuits because if you have tea, you got to have some biscuits, right? No, that's not the culture. Tea biscuits, okay. So no tea biscuits. What to do? So she took his Bhagavatams and she went to the market and traded it for tea biscuits. Prabhupada came back and was looking, couldn't find his Bhagavatam. He asked. She said, oh, I needed some tea biscuits, so I made a trade. And then Prabhupada said to her, tea or me? And she said, tea. Prabhupada wasn't joking, but she was. She was kind of like joking, But Prabhupada didn't. Prabhupada thought, Krishna's mercy. So he took that opportunity. And during that time, his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, was appearing to him in dreams and telling him, now is the time. Take sannyas, leave the family. Prabhupada was really criticized by his family for that. They thought he was very negligent. He didn't take care of the family. There were some children there, and he just left at one point. But Prabhupada said, I gave up my family and my material family, and now I have 300 children. Talking about disciples when he was preaching in the West. I have 300 children and no botheration of wife. Hare Krishna. So what to do? So, but Prabhupada, the calling was, to bring Krishna consciousness to the Western world. And Krishna had chosen him to be that person. So he left. He left his family. Here it says also, sometimes we see people get so attached to family life that they won't break from that connection all the way to the end of life. But there's a danger in that, because if you get attached to anything in this world at the time of leaving the world, that automatically brings you back to another body in the next life and having to fulfill that desire again. So therefore, Vedic culture, it's a systematic culture of living according to the principles of moving forward towards the ultimate goal of life, which is prema pumartha maham. In other words, developing love for Krishna. That's meant for everyone. If the man leaves the family, the wife, she goes to a holy place, usually lives in a temple or goes to a special holy place, and she stays there and she worships the deity to the end of her life, and she can also reach perfection simply by doing that. And the man ultimately, Prabhupada was Vanapras for a long time. During that time when he was Vanapras, he was preaching and developing his Back to Godhead magazines, living in Delhi at the time. Here, not too far from here either. Prabhupada was in Delhi for many years, uh, writing articles, printing it, and then, of course, distributing his Back to Godhead magazine, which is only one or two pieces of paper, really. And sometimes he had hardly any money because he would sell whatever he would write for like one or two pice, really nothing, just to somehow have enough funds so he could reprint the next issue. So Prabhupada struggled a lot in his Vanaprastha. Then at one point everything fell through. He had no more money, so he just went to Vrindavan and stayed for Vrindavan for 5 years, preparing for his mission to come to the West. So Prabhupada is an example. Prabhupada said, I never wanted it. Prabhupada didn't want to leave the family or to take sannyas, but he said, my Guru Maharaj, he was pushing, he was forcing. And said, now I can understand. He knew what was best for me, like that. So here we have the example. We don't need family enemies in order to get detached, but it is helpful. It is helpful. But the best thing is to make the family members Krishna conscious. Everyone becomes Krishna conscious. Then the family is also what we say the family, the spiritual family, and not just what we say living in a home with wife, children, and responsibilities. That's all. Then it becomes the home becomes a mandir, and that is the program for developing our life. Is that in grihastha life, the husband and wife get together and serve the Lord together alone, and teach and guide the children to also become Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada outlines in the Bhagavad Gita what are some of the activities of grihastha life, such as chanting Hare Krishna together with your wife, children. Also reading, and he mentions Krishna book together with the family members, sitting together reading, and taking prasadam together, and having a home deity, worshiping your deity together. And then it's no longer griha medi, it's grihastha, or that life that actually is a ashram. That's grihastha ashram. Even though one may not be living in the temple, still they are living in an ashram when all of the family members are performing the activities which are meant for elevation to spiritual life. And that's very important. But here it also mentions there's a time that at a certain age, of course, no one follows that anymore. People live according to what they feel they should do. And the Vedic scheme is just theoretical right now, like that, because people think, well, if I leave home, who will take care of me? Right? I have my wife, I have my support with family members. Who's going to take care of me? And so they hesitate and continue to stay in the family, and they also practice Krishna consciousness. And that is the ideal situation. But at the same time, they're thinking not to leave. But the danger is that if we have to depart the body in that atmosphere, the attachment is still there. And if that attachment is there, Prabhupada, any pinch of material attachment, he uses the word pinch, means very small, will cause one to take birth again in this material world. Yeah. So here it's mentioned. And King Anga, very saintly person, but he has a son who's just like, as it says, a bad son. Yeah, so here it says a son who is a foolish rascal. It said there's two kinds of glorious sons in the family. One who is a Vaishnava and one who is learned. He said if your son is learned or a Vaishnava, then he is what we say a worthy son, like that. If he's none of these things, then there is what is called mutra and putra. Mutra and putra means one is semen and one is urine. A good son comes by semen, and a bad son is no better than urine. Hare Krishna. Comes from the same receptacle. So these are very strong statements just to give us the understanding how important it is to arrange everything in one's life that to support one's practice of God, because that's the goal of life, is to get out of this material world. Maya Lavase Kachu Base Kachu Habubu Diva Jeev Krishna Das E Vishwas Kolina Dukanai. So life is not meant simply to make a nice material arrangements to become happy here. Life is meant to go back home, back to Godhead, and whatever material arrangements you make should be just sufficient to support whatever you need to do to become Krishna conscious. Not that we live gorgeously and then have no time for chanting, reading, or associating with devotees taking part in the programs. Or we live too meagerly where we have to struggle to maintain our body and mind. So one has to balance that nicely. And if one has excess in household life, then one can use that. It's like Rupa Goswami, when he retired from government service, it says he had 2 boatloads of gold coins, which was quite a lot of wealth, especially in those days. And then, of course, he took 50% of that and gave it to propagate religious principles, to push on Krishna consciousness. And 50% he divided into half, and 25% for emergencies and 25% for immediate expenses. So Prabhupada said that is generally the principle that how the grihastas should take care of their finances. But who follows that? Nobody, hardly anybody now, because they think it's too. Give 50% of my income to Krishna. He's got more money than I do. Why do I have to give him so much? He should give me some, because he's Bhagavan, right? There was one story where one man he uh, he made a deal with Krishna. He said, Krishna, He prayed, Krishna, I want to make $1 million. And if I do, I'll give you half, told Krishna. And he told his friends just to sanctify the prayer problems, to make it, this is what I'm praying for. So he went on his economic adventure, and he didn't make $1 million, he made $500,000. So he didn't give anything to Krishna, because he said, I'll give you half if you give me $1 million. So his friend said, well, you promised to give half. He said, yeah, but Krishna already took his half. So, so that kind of deal doesn't work. I mean, we should be making deals with the Lord anyway. And that if I'll worship you, I'll do all kinds of nice devotional things if you give me this, right? We should never ask the Lord for anything. Prabhupada said we should only ask, well, how can I serve? That is the ultimate principle of prayer, because Krishna is always taking care of his devotees. Anyone who surrenders to Krishna devotional service has no anxiety for personal needs or even protection. Says Krishna is the maintainer, he's the provider, he's the protector. He is Suhidam Sahadehinam, he's the best friend of all living entity. So he's always there to take care of his devotees. Devotees don't have to ask anything for Krishna. In fact, they don't even want to ask anything for Krishna. A real devotee will never even think, even if I need something, I won't ask Krishna for it. And if he provides, that's nice. If he doesn't provide, that's also fine. The devotees live free from the anxiety because they just depend on Krishna, and Krishna always takes care of his devotees, right? So Prabhupada used to say he's taking care of everyone. He says the elephants in the jungles in Africa, they eat 40 kgs of food every day. So they're not working. Well, who's providing? The birds, they get everything they need to eat. They don't work. So why do we have to work? No need to work, because Krishna will provide everything you need. So, what was it? Lord Chaitanya, he said to Srivas Thakur, hey Srivas, you got a big family, but you don't do anything. How do you maintain your family? How do you live? How do you work? And Srivas went, this is how he responded. Clapped 3 times. Lord Chaitanya said, what does, and he clapped 3 times, what does that mean? And then Srivas said, one day, if Krishna doesn't feed me, clapped his hands. 2 days, if Krishna doesn't feed me and my family. And the 3rd day, if he doesn't provide for what we need, I drown myself in the Ganges. Haribol. Lord Chaitanya roared. He became so happy. He roared. He shook the universe when he roared. And he said, oh my, Srivas, even if Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, has to go from door to door with a begging bowl, there will always be food in your house. So Lord Chaitanya was telling us, just serve Krishna, he'll take care of you. But Krishna, but Maharaj, I gotta work. I got a whole big family, and what am I gonna do? I got this, that, I got that. Forget it. Just serve Krishna. And Krishna will take care of you. So now Swamiji is telling us to quit our job. No, I'm not saying you should quit your job, but I'm saying you should have that faith that everything you need will be provided by Krishna simply by serving Krishna. But if you have to provide for yourself, then Krishna takes care of you that much. If you surrender 70% to Krishna, he'll give you 70%. Right? In other words, he tells you, Yayatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. He always takes care of you. But if you use your occupation and whatever finances you have to propagate religious principles, that is a great service like that. Not just building a big bank account so you can retire to Goa when you get old, and live on the banks of the shore of Goa and chant Hare Krishna. That's not like that. So the idea is to make sure you use all of your time, energy, whatever else Krishna has given us. Because what do we have that's ours? Nothing. Everything is provided by the Lord, even our particular body, that belongs to Him also. He's given us the body through the material energy, karma, daiva, trena, automatically. So that also belongs. So the more we surrender to Krishna for whatever we give, the more we become happy. And those who don't surrender, they have to struggle for that part that they haven't surrendered. So therefore, Krishna wants it all. Krishna says, "Oh, you gave me some nice. That's very nice. Now, what else have you got? Come on, don't hold back." But he doesn't need anything. He won't. But his love for his devotee, he knows that the more the devotee depends on him and serves him, the happier the devotee becomes. And ultimately, the more Krishna conscious they become also like that. So family life is a struggle, especially in this material world where there is so much pressure from the secular society to come up to a certain standard of livelihood, simply to maintain. But one has to understand that that's simply the Maya energy, because from the secular point of view, they want you to work hard so they can also push forth their businesses, economic adventures in the material world, and they need people to help them. So brahmachari is the best life. Sannyas is okay. It's not as good as brahmachari. I'll tell you that later in secret. But grihastha means some for Krishna, some for me. But not necessarily if we have that consciousness, then what is it? Yeah, the consciousness of Srivas Thakur, like that. But I don't recommend you follow Srivas unless you have that same faith. Because if you don't have that same faith, you won't be able to do it, nor you'll be happy trying to do it. So if you have that faith that Krishna will take care of me, then then that is the complete faith. And he does. He takes care of us always. Sometimes he makes us wait for what we want, but still he sometimes he tests his devotee, but he's always there for his devotee, 100%. Okay, any questions, comments? Yes. Yeah, you'll be in two minds. Yeah. Hmm? You'll be regretting maybe, or you'll be thinking, come on, Krishna. In other words, that faith, the faith is required because that's a big move. But if you have that faith, then it works. But you can't. Nobody can give you that faith. That faith has to come from with you, from within. It has to come from your own heart and mind. Mhm. Well, one of the ways is to observe those who are completely surrendered. You can see there's how they live and how they're free from the anxiety. And another thing is to gradually move in a more detached way towards material life. In other words, start, okay, here I am. It's March 4th, 2025. This is my situation. So by March 4th, 2026, I should be like this. In other words, make plans to move in a more detached way. And you can do that because we can all look around, even brahmacharis and sannyasis, everyone. What things in my life really are really not necessary in terms of my execution of devotional service, and take inventory to see like that. And that helps too. There are four things. There's That's what is essential, that which is important, that which is non essential, and that which is not important. Put your life into four categories. What is essential? The essential would be, okay, I have family responsibilities, that's essential. I also have to chant Hare Krishna, that's essential. I should associate with devotees, that's essential. What's important? I should read the books, that's important. What is not essential? Well, I shouldn't go to the movies on Saturday night and sit there and eat pav bhaji and then enjoy. So, or belpuri. Or I shouldn't be wasting my time on the computer trying to just find out what's happening all over ISKCON. So there's a lot of essentials and non-essentials. You can use this, or even your practical responsibilities. So you can write, right? You can take inventory like that. We should do that because time is the most valuable thing we have. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says money is valuable, but time is precious. Time is precious because money you can get and you can lose and you can also gain again, but time goes in one direction. So how much time do I have before I have to depart the world? Nobody really knows. So let me use that whatever time I do have for those things that will, detach me from this material world and bring me closer and closer to Krishna. So we can think like that. Time is very important. Prabhupada even demonstrated in his classes, he would give a practical demonstration of how important time was. So it's mentioned also that time is so important. And those who are efficient both in spiritual life and in material life also, they are good with time. They know how to use time. So we should be good time managers. Learn that science of using your time in the best possible way. So that takes some practice, takes some education also. Maybe you can read a few books also. Bhakti Tirtha Swami he wrote what is called, what was it? Leadership 1 and Leadership 2. In Leadership 1, he talks a lot about time management, how to best use your time. Don't waste time on the phone. You spend too much time with the phone, right? Scanning the phone, or we get into a conversation with somebody and we're on the phone for 2 hours. Whatever you have to say can be said in in 10 minutes. Prabhupada never liked the phones. When Prabhupada came to New York in the beginning of Krishna Consciousness, 1960, they said, Prabhupada, you should have a phone. Prabhupada said, okay. So they got Prabhupada a phone. Of course, getting a phone in India is not so easy unless you have money. But in America, they'll give you a phone really fast. So Prabhupada got a phone. So Prabhupada's up, he's doing his translation. It's like midnight. And so someone calls Prabhupada on the phone at midnight. Prabhupada picks up the phone. Yes. Swamiji? Yes. How are you? You're calling at 12 o'clock midnight, asking how are you, how I am. Click. Prabhupada told the devotees next day, he said, get this phone out. So he had the phone for one day. That was it. So people want to talk to somebody, so they, oh, all right, let me just see who I can call. Yeah, I talked to him yesterday. Maybe I'll find a new person to talk to. So they use these devices in their ways that are really wasting times, wasting energy. So if you have a phone, good, but use it just for essentials. Don't waste time on that. So these are just examples like that. Learning how to be, what we say, introspective and see how best I can use my time. Like sometimes we can fast and spend more time chanting and reading. Not that we have to eat every time it's time to eat. We can take that opportunity to skip a meal or to maybe eat just a little so we can actually have more time for reading and chanting, associating with devotees. So these are just examples. I'm not